Hello, my colleagues. Welcome back to Career and Corporate Hub. Ngadzina Nifikodani Hlajwayo. I am a career strategist. So this is another video focusing on interview tips. If you have not checked out the other two videos that have came out yesterday and the day before yesterday on interview tips, please do check them out. Today we're focusing more on how you can introduce yourself best in the interview. So today we are going to talk about how to answer other questions, like where you need to bring in some elements of your technical experience, So these are questions like can you work under pressure? Are you a good team player? Those questions. And I always advise that when you've got an interview, go to Google and look at the most frequently asked questions in an interview. And don't only use Google as your reference, because those questions could also be dependent on the type of job, or on the type of a job that you're going to be interviewed for. For an example, the most important thing that you should have is the job description. Like, don't go to an interview without going through the job description, or rather just the details on the job advert, because that is your guide on how you can prepare for the questions. And, I think most people that have prepared for an interview and we went through the job advert, trust me, they say the questions that we looked at were literally more on what we discussed. So for me, it's quite important that you look at the job advert. And, for me, that's always the driver of how you should prepare your answers. And looking at how you should then prepare your answers, never give theoretical answers. That's why I always advise people that if you're currently studying, make sure that you acquire skills from doing other jobs. Don't focus on just the theory. Don't focus on just studying, because as students, we sometimes just focus on just studying in university. And then when you go for an internship interview or graduate program interview, then you can't really answer, questions. And now the interviewers are quite direct, or the recruiters are quite direct on how they want you to answer the questions. Some, they even send you like a memo prior to the interview that makes sure that all your answers are based on STAR: situation, task, action, and resolution. So therefore, when you give these examples, it must be examples of something that you have experienced. So therefore, it's quite important that you have some skills that you've acquired during your studies, so that when you go for an interview, then you can stand out from other candidates, because then you are talking about something that you have applied. If they're talking about tell us about yourself, sorry, I'm thinking of the previous video on tell us about yourself. If they're talking more on tell us how you can cope under pressure, you can't just say, yes, I'm very good, I can work under pressure, I'm calm. Don't just say that. It's always theory and also practical. So how have you applied yourself where you had to work under pressure? And you don't want to talk about that, when I was studying, I had a lot of exams, and I had to, just schedule like times on how I was going to study. We've all gone through that. So you need to talk about something that makes you different. Like, if we are all going for the same interviews, that means we could have the same qualifications. And that means that, the pressure that you went through during your exams, all other candidates gone through that same pressure, same experience. So now what makes you different? And one of the things that I did during when I was studying, I was doing promotional jobs. And one thing that I'm so grateful is, having my best friend, Murungwa, who, during holidays would look at like things that we could do to generate money. And those those experiences have helped me to also stand out in interviews. I think most of the interviews that I've done to this date, I have passed because, from when I was a student, when I was going to be interviewed for an internship, I was given those examples of something that I did, something tangible. So you need like tangible skills that she'll be talking about, not something that, of theory. If you're going for an interview and your plan is just to mention that, like more on theory, we can all go on Google and look at, can you work under pressure? What could be the answer? And then you just mention what is there on Google, which is very much theory. But now, if you're talking about the experience on how you applied yourself when you were working under pressure, then it becomes more, it's easier for the interviewers or recruiters to see how you can then apply yourself and how you're going to apply yourself in the position that you're interviewing for. So it's quite important that you always bring in examples. You always bring in examples because those are the ones that are going to make you stand out. So if you messed up in the introduction, you still have an opportunity to make up with how you are going to then answer these questions. So never just mention theory, because theory, we can all just go to chat GPT and Google, what can I answer, how I can cope under pressure. So one of the things that I also like to include into those questions, or when I'm answering, I looked at how I painted my introduction. For an example, if I'm talking about, now I'm going to continue what I spoke about in the first video, about introducing myself. If I'm talking about family, that I grew up with 5 siblings, then going forward, I would mention something around, for an example, talking about, are you a good team player? When I answer this question, I would say, as I mentioned in the beginning, that I grew up with 5 siblings, so it has taught me to deal with different characters. Therefore, when I was working for company X, I had a project where I had to work with a team, and this is how I then demonstrated, how we achieved the project as a team, and also what was my role within the project, which is also very important. So it's quite important that when you're looking at how you're answering the questions, or rather just when you're answering those questions, it's always a situation. What was the situation? So the example that you could give, like looking at the SAR, for an example, relating it to your family, and now bringing it into the answer that you are bringing it now, or rather the question that, like what you've said in the beginning, looking at what you're bringing it now. You could give an example, like for an example, when I was working for company X, there was an issue at a customer where a part arrived at a customer with a defect, and looking at our processes, we couldn't see where the issue was coming from. So I had to call everyone from logistics, from quality, from production, just to brainstorm to look at where the issue was coming from. And I understood that calling everyone from different departments, could also lead to resistance from other departments, because they would feel like maybe their process is secured. So therefore, understanding that everyone has got a different personality has helped me to gather everyone in one room and speak the same language. So that also considering everyone's opinion into like taking everyone's opinion into consideration. And now having that understanding and that alignment, and also defining the roles and responsibilities in us resolving that issue, and also just explaining to everyone that the customer comes first, therefore we need to resolve this timely. It made everyone understand. And when we came back from everyone with results from different departments, we were able to see where the issue was coming from. And that topic was resolved within a day, because now the communication was effective, and, the issue was coming from production. Then after that, we improve the processes to make sure that there are no defects that can be caused in production, and also put in a pokayoki to make sure that no defects can pass the quality checking point, and that made the customer happy to see that their process was secured, and also making sure that the stock that was going while to the customer while we were resolving the problem was also secured. So going forward, the customer was able to trust us because we resolve the problem timely. So that could be, like somehow how you could look at how you can structure your answer. But what I'm trying to say is you bring in the element of this is how I grew up, and now this is how I also apply myself. So it's sort of like something that is embedded in you. And if you're really going for a position that has, like where you're going to be leading a project, then it really helps to sort of like see how, like the interviewers can relate to how you can resolve the problems. So it's not just about, yes, I'm a good team player. I know that everyone's opinion must be taken into consideration. And I know that, it's important to have meetings. No, talk about how you've handled the situation before where you had to be in a team. And I think one thing that I also forgot to mention there was mentioning your role also, which is quite important. Really, that's how you can answer the questions. And looking at the job description again, if the job description is talking about maybe I'll look at maybe something that I also did recently. I think like it was a like business analyst, I think, something along those lines. And when you're answering the questions, look at, or rather when you're preparing for that job interview, look at the questions along those lines also. Like how do you analyze data? Think of the systems that are used to analyze data. So it's also important that when you get an interview invite, ask the interviewers how is the interview structure going to be like, because sometimes it can also give you a clue on what they'll be asking. So these are some of the things that a lot of people are also scared of asking, that, oh, if I ask, maybe they may think that I'm not the right person for the job. But having that communication can also help you to sort of like navigate how you can prepare for your interview. In the past, when I was going for an interview, I asked HR, what type of questions can I prepare? And now when we're talking about like the star questions, then that, okay, when I get there, I should have been prepared about this star questions. And so it's quite important that you have that alignment. Like, treat an interview as a way of you're going to network, and also you sort of like, I don't know how to put it, but you want to look like you know what you want. Yeah. That's basically it. You want to show them that you know what you want. And by you asking, could you please help me with understanding how the interview structure is going to be? I want to know which direction I should prepare for this interview. And, some people may feel like, but I don't want them to know that I'm going to prepare. You have to prepare for an interview all the time. That's why, when you get into the interview, when the nerves are all over, just do breathe in, breathe out. And sometimes when you enter the interview, you're just like, oh, I'm so nervous. I hope I don't mess up this interview, and reading the room, sometimes some guys just laugh. So that's why it's quite important to sort of like, although you must take your interview very serious, but don't take it too serious that it's like very rigid. That's why you should avoid having that back and forth. So tell us about yourself. So, and then you stop. No, if you stop and you see there's no reaction, just say thank you. Then they will know that you are done. So don't just stop and then there's nothing, like, okay, are you done? Like, even the interviewers don't know what's next. So it's really quite important that when you looking at how you're going to approach your interview, then you approach it in a more friendly manner as well. Because how you're going to present yourself, like the way your body language, everything is going to set the mood in the room. So Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. If you are new, please do make sure that you subscribe. If you are not new, thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to comment. Just like, what do you think about the interview? Do you get nervous? If you need support with, like interview preparations and you've got an interview coming up, do let me know. We can arrange something. And yeah, please share this video as well. So thank you. Be kind and gentle. Bye bye.